Today we're going to be painting the GCPS Mule Transport from the game Warpath in a comic style. Hello everyone, Gabriel with Gabriel's Hobby Studio here. Right now you can see that I've already base coated the model with a red color, and I'm applying a black wash over top of it to darken the red down. The reason that I'm doing this is so that the paint is one shade darker than my base color of red. This is going to be the only recess shading that I do for the majority of the model, and by having it one shade darker than my base color of red, I can build upon that with lighter and lighter colors, without risking a wash later that would darken everything down further than I would want it. The next step that I'll be taking is to go over that with the original base color of red. I'm going to apply the red while shifting the hue into more of a yellow-orange color, and I'm going to take care to do so while minding the shapes of each plane on the cab. For example, I have a graphic here that will show what it is that I'm doing two-dimensionally. I'm considering each plane of the cab to be a shape, and I'm leaving the edges with the previous color that was down. How I'm shifting the hue here is that I've got my base color of red, and I'm just adding a little bit of orange at a time to the color to shift it into red-orange, then into orange, and finally with a little bit of yellow into the yellow-orange range. I'm a fan of comic style art and a fan of the cell shading that is in Borderlands and similar style games. While looking into the style of Borderlands, I came across another YouTuber who had done a Borderlands style painting of the Achilles Ridge Runner from Warhammer 40k. This YouTuber is Model Making Guru, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. The inspiration that I'm taking from his video is the way that he painted the main body of the vehicle and how he transitioned that color to give it a cel-shaded or comic look. And it inspired me to go ahead and try that on this vehicle that I owned. This model has been converted a little bit and some pieces added to it. On the front of the vehicle, I put an orc grill or radiator, and the winch that was supposed to go there I put on the back of the vehicle. I also took some spare tubing and extended the wheels in the back. This radio came with a dollar store toy soldier. I just glued it into the back of the bed where the door was on the original model. When it comes to putting the base coat down for the radio, I've mixed together a dark red with a little bit of purple. This gives me a dark color that is warm, but not as warm as the main color of the vehicle. I'm going to be using this color as the contrast for the green screen that I'll be putting on the radio, and it will help make my metallic dry brush pop out. My focus with this chipping is on the edges. I'm basically doing an edge highlight and then feathering out into the flat planes right next to that edge. The color that I'm using is a very dark gray I've mixed up, and it's a combination of blue and brown to make a very blue gray instead of white and black to make a flat gray. My goal with this was that it would contrast nicely in value and hue with the main body color of the vehicle. Once I have that initial dark brown, I'll paint on highlights over the inside of the dark spot on the edge, and on some of them I will feather in a little bit, but making sure to leave that dark gray between the red and the metallic color. Now, I could have gone ahead and done the hairspray style of chipping, and that might have added a very nice texture, but because of a lot of the planes being so small, I decided that it would be best just to do a paint-on chipping effect. Under the carriage, I'm applying the same dark red that I used on the radio, but I've mixed a little bit of black in it with this time. I'm going to be painting this into the wheel wells to provide a dark shadow underneath and block out any unwanted details. This dark color is going to provide the backdrop for the metallic dry brushing over the springs and the edges of those linkages. I did decide to use a zenithal technique. If you're not familiar with zenithal, it's where you prime the object black, and then from one direction you're applying a white or a lighter color that will provide a basic indication of light and shadow on the model. So what exactly did I do with the tires? I used the same dark gray that I used with the chipping effect, and in the areas of black on the tire, the dark gray would read as black, and in the areas of white, the dark gray would read more blue where there's more light hitting it. After I did that with the tires, it was very evident that there was a zenithal there, at least in my eyes, so I decided to try and make the tires look more used, more dirty, by having stuff stuck in the treads. To accomplish this, I coated the tires in a watered down PVA glue and then covered them in sawdust. I then began to wipe away the sawdust until only the sawdust remained in the treads. Now, the model did not come with a base, and normally that wouldn't be a problem. However, I am using this in an open play game, or at least I was prior to the pandemic, where our game organizer allowed us to use any vehicles that would fit the scale, so I did need a base. Due to the plethora of Warhammer models and bases, the group decided to use Warhammer vehicle bases as the size, and we also implemented the speed templates from the Speed Freaks gamebox. So I chose the Warhammer base that best suited the size, and another member of the group had given me a MDF laser cut one that I used as a template to make the foam base. I had to cut the foam in half because it was a little too thick for what I wanted, but in the act of cutting it, I created some texture in the middle where the foam had folded or bunched up or just tore, and I decided to keep that as part of my ground texturing. I ended up building the back end of the base up with a little bit of foam just to bring the vehicle up off of its tires, so that way when it's making contact, 2 or 3 of the tires are in contact and 1 is in the air. In addition to that, I used particle board scraps and cat litter to build up some texture. Overall, though, I decided to keep the paint scheme very plain and very monotone, so I painted it with a variation of gray and then with browns on top of that, with values ranging up to more of a tan color. I wanted the base to be part of the model, but I didn't want it to stand out so much that it took away from the vehicle. Now, if you would like to further support me, please like, subscribe. It really helps with making sure that the YouTube algorithms know that this is good content to share with other people. I also have a Facebook page now for anyone who would like to see behind the scenes content and discuss the hobby. There is a link on my channel page, but I'll also have it in the description of each of my videos down below. If you enjoyed this content and you would like to see more, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that way you can be notified when I post new content. As always, have fun, be creative, and happy hobbying.